What's up, Philadelphia? We are live, broadcasting from the beautiful New Media Studios right outside of Philadelphia. Welcome to 4th and Jawn, episode number 9, a.k.a. Sammy's Sleeves Get Sacked Again, a.k.a. Revenge of Jim Schwartz, a.k.a. boys and girls, I don't know if you heard, but it is Dallas week, baby, and we are hyped to be here with you. Hey. It is so much better coming into this studio and doing all this after an Eagles victory. We were hyped leaving the link. I know Gail was there. A bunch of you were there at Xfinity Live. We saw it. The Vikings are undefeated no more. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We got Turron Davenport. What's going on, Turron? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? How are you?
We're doing great after a big Eagles victory and looking forward to the Dallas Cowboys game. We appreciate a minute of your time. First question for you, all right? Jim Schwartz's defense made Bradford look incredibly bad. I mean, worse than he's ever looked than when he was wearing like a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. What did the defense do to be so effective coming off of a lousy game against the Redskins? What did they do that made them effective against an undefeated Vikings team?
Well, there were multiple things that were happening. Primarily, you had the guys on the outside, the edge rushers, and Brandon Graham who had 5 quarterback hits. Connor Barwin had a sack fumble. And, you know, these guys were getting that outside pressure, forcing him to step up. And when he stepped up, you had Fletcher Cox collapse in the pocket in the middle. So there really wasn't anywhere for him to go. And then in addition to that, they mixed in some blitzes because they know he doesn't like that pressure, or most quarterbacks don't. So you had the Rodney McLeod blitz. You had Malcolm Jenkins going on the blitz. So they gave him looks that he wasn't really used to seeing as far as from that Eagles defense. They didn't show that as much throughout the beginning of the season. And then in addition to that, they also made sure that, you know, they knew that he liked to throw the ball outside in those situations when he has that pressure. Mm-hmm. So they made sure that they, you know, protected that area also. So it was just a group effort. You had the blitzes coming all over the place. Even Steven Means, he had his first sack as an Eagle also. So these guys they got after him. That's what you had to do. 19 quarterback hits that rattled him, and he was not as accurate as he normally is as far as this season is concerned because of that constant pressure.
Mm-hmm. Now, it almost seems like, okay, so they schemed incredibly well against Sam Bradford, who was pretty much a statue back there, and that's really what the wide 9 is meant to do, is to get after a spot where you think the quarterback's going to be at. Now, next week, Dak Prescott leaves a whole nother list of problems, all right? Because against the Cutler, against the Roethlisberger, who don't have much movement inside of the pocket, the defense was effective. When Stafford was rolling out or when Cousins was stepping up in the pocket, I mean, these aren't mobile quarterbacks like a Dak, but they were doing enough to get the gap integrity of the Eagles' defensive line off their game. What kind of problems does a Dak Prescott pose to a Jim Schwartz attack-style wide 9 defense?
Well, basically what ends up happening is you have these guys who are single-gap rushers, and you have the guys on the outside coming from a wide angle. Everybody has to – now, you'll always want to have a more disciplined pass rush, you know, as far as maintaining the passing – you know, the rushing lanes and not giving that lane for the quarterback to step up and find the crease and get to the second level, especially one like Dak Prescott, who actually has the ability to make a defender miss. So really it comes down to being disciplined up front. You have to know when to kind of reduce your pass rush and not just run by him as he steps up in the pocket. So that's something they're going to have to work on doing. And then in addition to that, you have the ability to, you know, run that dive out of the shotgun, which is something that they like to do with Ezekiel Elliott, and that's a blitz killer as well. Or not a blitz killer, but a pass rush killer as well, because the guys are run right by them. They're running out the play. And what ends up happening is the thing that they like to do the most, get upfield aggressively, could work in their disadvantage. Then the other thing you have to think of is, and you saw it especially in the Lions where Stafford was able to break a couple runs, you have to be careful going to man defense, because when you go to man-to-man defense, basically what happens is your defenders, they turn their back to the quarterback, and you don't really know that the quarterback's running until he's past that second level. So he's already gained a good amount of yards. And if it's a guy like a Dak Prescott, he could turn an 8-yard run into a 15 to 20, sometimes 20-plus yard run. So you have to be very disciplined. It will limit their ability to use man coverage, like I mentioned. And then it's also going to require a defender to probably be a robber on him. So it could be Nigel Bradham. It can end up being Malcolm Jenkins. We're not sure how that's going to look. I'm going to go back and watch some of Jim Schwartz's tape against more mobile quarterbacks just to see. But it's never really a 100% indicator because schemes change with personnel.
Now, I feel like something that kind of went underrated in that entire Vikings game, 0 sacks on Wentz, right? 0 sacks on Wentz. Now, Big V started out the game, with a penalty, and we were all worried about what he was going to do, and we were all rolling our eyes when Doug Peterson was giving that press conference saying that he was going to stick with them. What did they do differently in this game, or was Big V kind of handling his own business on that side of the field?
It's a combination of the two. Big V was handling his own business, but you also saw more 12 and 13 personnel, whereas they had extra tight ends in the game. Oftentimes they had 1 or 2 tight ends to Big V side helping him out. And that's something they didn't do as much against the Redskins, and Ryan Kerrigan, did his thing against them. But in this case, you also had pass rushers on that side, and Brian Roberson as well as Daniil Hunter. These guys are more edge rushers, more agile, athletic type of guys. And so it was strength against strength because even though Big V is 6'6", 315, he's very athletic. Talking to Brandon Graham, he said that was something that really surprised him about Big V was his athleticism. So he was able to work his strength to his advantage. Now, he has the big hands, and once he gets them on a guy like a Roberson, a Hunter, guys that aren't as big, it definitely slows them down. And then they ran the football, too. They stayed committed to the run, and you had that big body wearing down on a smaller guy. I mean, we're talking about a 50-pound size advantage when he's going against those guys on that side. So those are some of the things that help. And I definitely agree that it's something that you really have to look at because this is a defense that had 19 sacks on the season. 8 of those 19 sacks came from that left side, which is going against Big V on the right side. So, he didn't allow any sacks. No one did. I think also just the job that Jason Kelsey was able to do. Now, I understand there were issues with the snaps, but just overall and not allowing that instant pressure on the inside against Linval Joseph, who many don't understand. He's probably the strongest man in the NFL, and you got a 265-pound center going against him. I thought that he was going to forklift him back to the quarterback multiple times, and it didn't happen. So I think that whole line played really well, not to mention what Jason Peters did on the left side against Everson Griffin, who has become one of the better pass rushers also.
Hey, what's up, Turron? This is Gail. I know we were talking last night about on Twitter about receivers. I know everyone was trying to get the news on if we were going to get Torrey Smith or maybe Alshon Jeffrey. Looking past in the past couple games, the Eagles' offense has struggled. Now, the receiver position, has that been the biggest unit that's been struggling the most that you've seen over the last 2 weeks?
I think just the offense as a whole, they need to flow it more through their playmakers. And when I say that, what I mean is Zach Ertz and Darren Sproles need to get the football more. Now, that's a different conversation. But when you talk about the receivers, it's tough. I mean, none of these guys are really stepping up the way I personally expected them to. I thought Aguilar would really be a guy that would show off his catch and run ability, but he hasn't really gotten that opportunity because they're sending him on routes down the field primarily. And then in addition to that, he's catching the football in traffic. So, there's a little bit of separation that he's creating, but you would like to see them scheme to get him a little more wide open. Dorial Green-Beckham, I think, is really the guy that will emerge at some point. And you saw it against the Vikings, with Trey Waynes. They had the little corner out there on him, and it was just a complete mismatch. And they went to it. He had the pass interference, and then they flipped him to the other side. And, he got to use his big body. And truth be told, the slant is his favorite route. Every time I talk to him about the slant, all he could do is smile, and we always talk about and using his big body to get that inside leverage and make it so the defender has to fight through him to get the football and catching it away from his body, extending his hands. And it's pretty cool to talk to him about that because you really see how much he loves that route.
Give me your prediction on what's going to happen on Sunday Night Football.
Sunday Night Football. I think it's going to be a battle of the trenches, and that's really where the game's going to be won or lost is what happens in the trenches. And when I say in the trenches, I'm talking about offense for the Cowboys against the Eagles defense. I don't really see much. I know they're getting, I think, DeMarcus Lawrence back and one of the other guys. I'm not sure. But I don't see much in the Cowboys defense. So really it's going to come down to the Eagles' ability to keep the Cowboys offense from making it more pack and play, but more of a smash mouth type of game. So they're going to have to shut that running game down. End of the day, I think Dallas is going to win at home, actually, because this team has struggled on the road as far as the Eagles are concerned. So I think it's going to be a close one, but I think the Eagles lose this one.
Hey, Turron,